Hello, good to see you again. This is assignment 3, the John Doe Internet Law recording. In short, John Doe laws are laws that are designed to protect companies, owners, and employees of companies from online defamation where files are taken against online anonymous defendants known as John Does for making slanderous or defamatory statements. You call it indemnification or online indemnification, usually end up damaging the character of the company and causes them some type of financial or mental loss, and usually occurs on online platforms and tied to the company itself, where some anonymous user can target a specific person or company. The identity of the person is often difficult to get because anyone can make a fake username and password, and usually precedes getting the identity of the anonymous defendant when a case is taken against this John Doe through getting information through the internet service providers, and this in itself can be often difficult to do. And so that's how a case is prosecuted or brought to prosecution, is first subpoenaing the internet service provider. So then when the internet service provider provides information, investigation can be done. Sometimes the anonymous defendant can be easily found. Other times it might take some time. So basically, does this stifle online speech? Yes and no. I say that it really doesn't, and in this respect that something that's necessary for to have a way for people and companies to defend themselves against statements that could be made online that are just factually or morally wrong that end up damaging the company or the individual. So it protects the rights and characters of the victims. Also, it's a way for victims to guard against online defamation, where anyone can anonymously post something slanderous. However, opponents say that it does stifle online speech and that it deters open and free discourse. That's sort of the nature of the internet, by diminishing free right speech. And it basically the biggest argument for that is that it keeps real remarks being posted that otherwise wouldn't have been posted, that are true, that possibly need to be revealed for companies doing wrongdoings. And this stifles whistleblowing. That's a natural part of this process. So basically, a example of this would be one where in New Jersey a case was filed against an anonymous user that online went by the name of XXPLRR. The company was Dendrite International, software company for pharmaceutical companies, and they found that there were 14 different comments made by 4 different John Does, and basically they alleged that these comments led to some type of financial distress and mental distress. Specifically, it targeted the president that experienced mental distress, and he said that stocks went plummeted after the comments. Well, the Dendrite filed the case, and basically the judge dropped the case on dismissed the case, saying that Dendrite didn't prove that there was slanderous remarks and that it led to some type of financial or mental loss. However, Dendrite appealed the case, and during the appeal there was a limited survey granted from the judge to disclose one of the John Does, particularly John number 3, that made particularly malicious comments, saying that the company was shopping the company, and basically knew that the company was in some type of financial trouble, and basically shopping the company for revenue and money laundering. So basically, then the appeal process went through, and when the appeal came up again, basically the judge dismissed the case further and explained that Dendrite's case against this John Doe, and specifically John number 3, was prima facie, and basically dismissed the case entirely. And also they found that NASDAQ prices didn't decrease, but instead increased throughout the time. The importance of this particular case is that The judge basically initiated development of certain standardized guidelines for handling and mitigating these cases where when similar cases came up, they could be dealt with accordingly, and it set precedents for new legislation in the state of New Jersey. So then now we jump to Georgia. Georgia's online statutes, yes, are very rigorous. They're very much like national guidelines. Basically, Georgia has four main things that the prosecution has to prove in order to have a libel case. Basically, they have to prove that yes, a false statement was made about the plaintiff. The false statement was communicated through a third party. I think that's the major point. And there was a fault on behalf of the defendant amounting to negligence, where the defendant knew what he was doing but did that intentionally, and the plaintiff suffered harm unless the statement in question amounted to defamation per se. So that's one of the tricky parts. This last part has to also prove that the harm was done up to certain guidelines. So yeah, I feel like it is a very good policy. The defendant is liable to make a written request for retraction, which is normal if the allegation fails to meet certain requirements of the policy set by Georgia legislator, and it will not be considered evidence of actual malice if not. So basically, also there are stiff penalties for Georgia. If convicted, defendant can be ordered to pay damages that are in either four different categories: presumed actual, special, and punitive damages. The most common one are actual damages. They're called compensatory damages. Most common and is awarded in cases where plaintiffs suffered very real and actual harm that is beyond the financial loss and or earning potential that resulted in defamation of reputation, standing in the community, hurt feelings, or mental distress. In my opinion, yes, John Doe statutes do a good job in Georgia to defer online hackers and online defamation because they're basically very similar to national guidelines. Successful prosecution and the payment of damages to the defendants in Georgia is common, and they're quite rigorous, and a number of lawsuits have ended in successful prosecution of anonymous defendants in online cases. One important note: Georgia is very strong with cyberbullying laws in the K through 12 grade schools, and where individuals are more vulnerable to being victimized because they're younger and they oftentimes don't know what they're doing. Georgia's policy is taken very seriously in grade school. A number of reports of cyberbullying cases involving very young students based on just online discourse have been processed. Because the actual legal definitions of bullying and cyberbullying vary widely across state to state, there's really no clause that allows a private right of action to sue a public school for not complying with Georgia state law. So that's one fault where Georgia's policies may be too broad, and they could be more specific to allow for better private right of action to sue public schools. Georgia's online John Doe statutes encompass defamation, again, where these written publications published in the form of pictures, videos, or statements, or media, where there's false assertion of some type of fact or a change in a fact through a third party that harms or damages another person's reputation or earning power. And so, yeah, I believe that Georgia does a very good job of turning this online defamation. So basically, as alternatives to preventing online cybercrime, cyberbullying, and defamation, it's very difficult because keep someone from making a false or malicious statement using a anonymous username that's hard to track, that has information tied to it that is not real, on an open forum or company platform where anyone can sign up for. It's very difficult because basically anyone can do it now. That's the whole point. One preventive measure, again, it comes up using a third-party expert to monitor the website. However, this may be quite expensive and timely. It requires experts provide precise judgment calls by the experts when reading user comments to decide whether it's even worth it, whether the comment it could be damaging or is damaging, and if further investigation is worth it for one comment, where that one comment might not actually be indemnification. It might not actually hurt the company, and the defendant might not be prosecuted. And so this process could be too timely and too expensive. Also, one alternative is monitoring technology that is actually being developed that could be used to detect cyber bullying or malicious statements. It can be used. However, again, the software requires constant updates and human supervision again. And so this automated technology, although it's promising, it basically precludes criminal intent, but still supposedly allowing freedom of speech by facilitating basically a takedown approach where users can be easily just deleted or silenced when the software is running and a human is monitoring it. However, again, some argue that these automated systems severely breach freedom of online speech privacy laws, and actual lawsuits that result are actually still very rare. So as in respect to computing aspects, and along the lines of cyberbullying software to monitor for slander statement, and specifically in the context of cyberbullying, there's been sort of an interest in convoluted neural networks. The cyberbullying terminology and the way the cyberbullying in general is somewhat very vague. Cyberbullying could miss or encompass cybercrime, especially in the younger generation, that involves the use of esoteric terminology, younger terminology on social media platforms involving internet language that the software designed to pick up. The terminology might not be designed, it might not pick it up. So in order to work through this problem, researchers in one particular case have developed a new type of CNN algorithm that basically works on word embedding and not feature extraction, that acclimates to new terminology about word embedding where similar words have similar meanings, and the subsequent intention of the word can be seen as either malicious or non-malicious. So this is called CNN, and it's been shown to outperform other standard bullying detection algorithms, basically in the goal of being more accurate, 95% accuracy. So basically this algorithm in particular works by, first it generates a vector space or a library or dictionary of the terms to have sort of a vocabulary that is not a pre-trained data, rather it's task specific, and it creates a first layer in convoluted neural networks, and it's generated by calculating a quality score value associated with the total number of words in the vocabulary itself for the vector space. And then the convoluted neural network uses the number of tweets and the total number of tweets in the vocabulary or library, and based on that, the size of the output is specified from the vector from this first layer, creating more of a convoluted neural networks where the maximum number of words per tweet is calculated for the length of the actual word in the library itself. That's where the word embedded around the vector space. So this creates a second layer or convoluted neural network that's a signature of all neural networks, in particular this one, the CB, where they generate a set of matrices. They call them filters composed of random numbers called weights. So weights, again, is a very a new type of thing for convoluted neural networks, where it's weighting or annotating the individual data points and assigning a label to it so it can be classified later. Basically, the novelty of this is it detects malicious software without feature extraction and feeds the word embedding into the convoluted neural network. It's important because based on annotation, a categorical classification scheme could be developed, and this could expose real cyber bullying problems. So again, how this works is basically devising a first layer of matrix of word embedding, vector space, where you have word embedding wrapped around some vector space. Then the convoluted neural net layer is developed where there has different weights or annotation, where you can begin to put together the different categories of, for instance, the terminology or categories of cyberbullying terminology, pull them together in this max pooling layer, where you begin to tokenize the tweets, and you put them to different categories, where it makes a sort of a model or a database for different categories of different terminology, and with assigned weights where it can be assigned as either malicious or non-malicious. Again, here's the code snippet found that's very similar to developing CBCNN algorithms. This one is an extension that can be used for Google Chrome, and it basically uses the same idea of a weighted annotated mechanism to label individual data points, assign a value, in this case a value between negative 0.5 and plus 0.5, where the tweets in Twitter can be classified based on a color, HTML color that's assigned to it that then corresponds to some type of other criteria. And in this case, you can see this is a classification-based method using a classifier, where in Twitter you have, you can see here at the beginning of the HTML color and subsequent loop that's used to assign color to the individual tweets. This again is something along the lines of sentimental analysis, where the various colors then can be identified and assigned to a different category, and then that can determine the whether the statement is a cyberbullying attempt or not. So in summary, yes, a successful prosecution of John Doe lawsuits are very difficult, especially when successful representation is a non-standard mechanism that holds online users accountable for improperly using a company's blogging platform, where the ethical issues and the use of technology is upheld via sort of a natural redemption ideological framework, and it's also very difficult to prosecute because sometimes these cases can be very vague, and the nature of the case itself is very vague because the defendant is not known. Because an anonymity of the malicious software user freedom of speech rights could be compromised, negligible and haphazard use of these forums by individuals who access these platforms intentionally to harm the character of the company or employee, that could result in severe financial or reputational loss, should be disallowed, but it's often difficult to prove in court. In Georgia, John Doe statutes are very rigorous and function well to prevent malicious user, and further, the prevention of online harassment is still ongoing, especially within the younger generation, where they do not understand dangers associated with just normal discourse, supposedly with online users that are threatening or malicious, and they may fall victim to cyberbullying, engaging in this discourse, and we probably need to focus more on that to prevent online crimes. So again, finally, newer technology ES is being developed, especially under artificial intelligence that detects cyberbullying, and it's very promising, especially with the CBCNN algorithms, where online identification can be prevented, and where these algorithms have a better accuracy and reduce the time it takes to identify these John Doe defendants. Thank you.